We're back with Maura Huvia from RSA, the security division of EMC, and this is their fraud action research labs over in Israel, where they see just about every kind of nefarious thing that might come over the wire so far as internet security fraud is concerned. So, Maura, we're talking about counterfeit credit cards, and you just kind of laid out the recipe of what's needed to kind of bake this cake and put it into action. Now, can you dip in a little bit and tell us a little bit how they're used to commit fraudulent transactions?
Right. So the first method I was talking about actually does not involve any kind of vulnerability on the part of the bank. Basically, all banks can do is remain vigilant and ensure that their ATM machines are not being tampered with. What makes it easier to detect in the case of skimmers and hidden cameras is that they're usually specific to a certain region, a certain location. So as I mentioned earlier, in November 2011, there were 11 different skimmers found in the Union Square area. So that kind of makes it easier to trace because they are usually that kind of fraud scheme where the skimmer is usually limited to a certain location. Now, another method for completing fraudulent ATM transactions has to do with a vulnerability that fraudsters exploit. Now, this involves collecting information through Trojan or phishing attacks. What happens is fraudsters get basic card information, things like your name, expiration date, card number, and then your ATM PIN number. And then that gives them just the basic information of your credit card. Now, I'd just like to go to something a bit technical here. Magnetic stripes contain two types of information, Track 1 data and Track 2 data. So the Track 1 data is all the information that you see in plain sight on your card, right? So it's your three-digit code on the back of your card and everything I mentioned before. And then the Track 2 data is something that's technically more sophisticated. It contains an algorithm. So obviously most of us don't know the algorithm on our credit card. We don't know the Track 2 data. We only know the Track 1 data. That's what fraudsters go after when they launch phishing and Trojan attacks. So when fraudsters launch these kinds of attacks, they can also get personal authentication information from us, anything they could use to impersonate us over the phone with the bank. So we're talking about social security numbers, date of birth, anything like that. And once fraudsters have that information, the Track 1 data plus our personal information, what we know they do is call the bank and then usually place some kind of travel flag which indicates that your card can be used overseas at ATM machines, for example, if you're traveling abroad. And then what happens is, in many cases, unfortunately, some of the ATM machines are not properly properly secured, so that the Track 2 data is not checked in every ATM transaction. So when that happens, banks usually see a lot of phishing attacks that are launched against them. They see a high level of ATM fraud, obviously. But what they can do then is check back and see if those ATM machines where the fraudulent withdrawals occurred, they can see if those machines have proper Track 2 data authentication in place.
Yeah, and we were looking at this quite a while ago with the RFID cards that were put out there, and how some of the credit card companies were just leaving that information wide open with full information on it, so that when people were hitting these point of sale devices, they wouldn't have to swipe their card; they just have to come near it. And there were skimmers out there where if you set up an RFID card reader with a laptop, they would just be pulling these cards right out of the air. So it's important that the Track 2 data be fully encrypted and in transit. So a lot of what you're talking, we've kind of gone through that on a different level with a different conversation once before. All very, very important, all very, very timely, and we certainly do appreciate you coming on the program today. Any other closing words, more, so far as this is concerned?
I'd just like to make the point that if all defenses are in place, fraudsters should not be able to use cloned cards or counterfeit cards. It's only when there's some kind of, an instance when ATM machine is not properly authenticating CVV, or it has to do with vulnerability. So if all defenses are in place, this theoretically should not be able to happen.
All right. Well, everybody, that is Maura Huvia from RSA, the Security Division of EMC. They're their Fraud Action Research Labs over in Israel, where they are looking through every single bit of malware that comes across the wire each and every day. Maura, thank you very much for being on the program with us. We look forward to seeing you or Lamore next week on the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joe.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.